Are you struggling with maintaining a consistent and cohesive brand identity across all platforms while growing your online presence? In this video, I'm going to walk you through how you can create your very own brand identity using Canva. I'm going to touch on some fundamentals as well as walk you through a brand identity that I created in Canva that you can use as a guide. So one of the fundamental things I want to touch on is that when you're creating your brand or building your brand, the fundamental thing is your target audience. Who are you targeting, right? Because here's why I said this, because if you're not thinking about your target audience in mind, you're going to be missing the mark a lot, right? And so building your brand is not just a one size fits all. It's not just one person's strategy or brand strategy that will work for you, because ultimately your target audience will just dictate how you build that brand and the work you put into your branding. Now let's talk about brand versus branding. Now your brand is how your target audience perceives you. And think about all your favorite brands or the businesses, and you'll be like, what do I really think about that business or that brand? And chances are, what you think about that brand may not be how the business probably initially wanted you to think about them, because chances are they've missed the mark, or the way they've built that business and the brand is how you perceive them, because literally they have done all the right things. And doing all the right things, includes a lot of elements that I'll touch on just in a few. So brand is just how you perceived or your clients or your target audience perceive you, and the branding is just the collective of all the work you'll put together in building that brand. And that includes your brand message, your brand voice, the visuals, how you show up across your social media, your website, everything, right? And all of that work that you put in helps to dictate your brand. Now, I want to talk about the importance of a brand identity, because that's why you're here. Now, you might have a clear idea that, hey, I'm building this business, I'm growing this business, I need to have a brand identity. And the importance of it is simple. You want to be recognizable. You want to be recognizable in the social media landscape or offline or wherever you plan to show up, right? And the mistake, like I said earlier, that a lot of persons make is that they don't think about their target audience in mind, and so they end up missing the mark when it comes to brand identity. Because when building a brand, the mistake a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners make is that they think because they like a particular color or because they like a particular font, it is the best thing. No, that's not how it works. You have to think about your target audience and the emotional connection you want to make, or the emotions you want to evoke through your brand. Is it that you want to build or create this emotion of trust, of reliance, of growth, of transformation? What is it, right? And this is just a fundamental thing a lot of persons miss, right? You might be using Canva and you feel empowered to jump into Canva and start designing because you get this really great idea for your business, and that's fantastic. But you have to bear in mind that the minute you start posting and putting things out there, you're already building a brand, even though you have missed out on the fundamental things. And so that's why this video serves as just a guide to creating not only a brand identity, but how you create that brand. If you want to learn more about creating a brand or building your brand, you can check out my upcoming masterclass where I touch on the fundamentals of branding. I'll walk you through how you can create your brand identity using Canva, as well as creating visuals that will help you to maintain a consistent and cohesive brand presence online. To learn more about that masterclass, you can click the link in my description, and I look forward to seeing you in that session. So your brand identity, like I said, isn't about you, but more about your target audience, the emotions you want to evoke, and the connection you want to make with them. And so, like I said, a lot of persons made the mistake of just thinking your brand identity is only about a logo, because And the reason why that is a mistake is because the logo is just one element of your identity, right? Because you have to think about your colors, you have to think about your fonts, you have to think about the imagery, all the visuals. And so if you are showing up in a way that is inconsistent, what you're doing is breaking that trust, right? Your target audience will be like, 1 week she's showing up using this color, and then the next week she's using another color. Or over time, I just seen all different colors. It looked like this person confused. And you don't want to do that because, in building a business, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of resources. And so even though you might not have the resource, so to speak, to invest in a graphic designer, you want to understand the fundamentals before you get started on doing it on your own. And that's why this video is just a great means to teach you a lot more about brand identity and getting it right. So to continue, what I want to talk about now is just some key elements that makes a brand, right? And one of those key elements is a visual identity. But before we touch on visual identity, a key element is your brand message. And your brand message has a lot to do with your values and your beliefs, right? It is the emotional connection you want to make with your audience. And I'm going to give you an example, and this is probably one of the easiest examples, and it is about Canva. Now, when I check out Canva, like digging a little deeper about their mission and the values and everything, one of the key things that stand out for me is that they want to empower everyone to design. And when I talk to a lot of persons, what they say about Canva is that it is easy to use. It makes them feel like a designer, even though they have never done designing a day in their lives, right? And so that is what Canva gets right about branding and building a brand, because their message aligns with how they are showing up. Let's put that a little bit more into context. So they said they want to empower everyone to design. So if you look at their message, if you should scroll through social media or their website, what you'll find is they talk a lot about easy to use, accessible, creative, innovative, click of a button, and the features and just the different tools that they have as part of their graphic designing tool is that it's all those things. It's easy to use, it's innovative, it's creative, right? So even with building your brand, those are the key things you want to bear in mind. What is really my brand's value? What is my what are the values? What is the emotional connection I want to make? And that will help you, or that will help to dictate how you build your brand. The second thing is your visual identity. Now, I touched on this a little earlier where I talked about, it's about the logo and the visuals and the colors and the fonts. And I want to give you just a quick example here. And I think I touched on it earlier, which is if you like the color orange and you are in, say, a health industry, orange might not be the best color, right? Or maybe you're in let's say a creative field and you're using a lot of colors that doesn't connect with your target audience, then you're going to be missing the mark. So building a visual identity is not about you. I think I've said this so many times, but more so about your audience. And so when you're going to be building your brand identity, you want to do some research. You want to take some time to do that work, especially if you don't have the resources to hire a graphic designer right now. You're going to want to be very careful about choosing the colors and choosing the correct shade and tone for that color. I've had a lot of conversations with entrepreneurs who say, and when I ask them, which color do you use for your brand? They'll be like, oh, I use orange and I use blue and I use this. I'm like, okay, what's the exact code for that, that color? And they're scratching their head because they don't know. And it's not just slapping some colors together that you think look good or you think might work, because using the wrong shades and tones can throw off everything, right? So your visual identity is just a collective of everything. It's not just about wanting a logo and starting with a logo, but putting in the work to choosing the right colors. And it does take some amount of research. It's not an overnight thing, just to get that clear. All right. And like I said, I'm going to walk you through creating your very own visual identity using Canva with an example that I have. Another key element for you is the tone of voice. Now, what is a tone of voice? It's how you speak to your audience. So if you get an example, if you have been following me on my socials, what you'd find is that I talk a lot about growth and transformation, and a lot of my message is just about educating and informing. And so my tone is normally like very relatable, right? And you can let me know in the comments, what do you perceive of my brand, right? Because I'm building a brand. I am doing a lot of work in my branding, but I could be doing all of these things and be missing the mark. So if you can, just comment in the box below and tell me, how do you perceive my brand, right? But to come back to the point of your tone of voice, it's very important. So your tone of voice is how you communicate, it is how you engage your audience, and pretty much your tone helps you to form a relationship with your target audience. So I've touched on all the key elements of building a brand and helping you to be more consistent and cohesive. Now I'm going to dive right into how you can create your brand identity using Canva. So I'll be walking you through a brand that I created. Now, this is a fictitious brand, but it is one that falls under my target audience. And so this brand is called Renee, and she's an infopreneur. If you don't know what an infopreneur, she's someone who is knowledgeable, and she shares her knowledge through coaching and speaking engagements. And the vibe for this brand is bold and stylish, and fun. And so just give you a little bit more of a background. So what I did for this project was to create visually cohesive and compelling brand. And then I went on to create some designs. And from the brand attributes, like I said earlier, it's just about being bold and stylish. You realize I said eccentric here. It has some amount of eccentricity to it, but it mostly have a fun. And then another attribute of this brand is that it's knowledgeable and engaging. So in defining what I want that brand to be depicted as and perceived as, I went in and chose like the colors for this brand. Now, let me tell you, like I said earlier, you can put in all the work in branding, but it does not resonate the same way with your audience if you miss the mark. And that's only if you miss the mark, right? And I'm showing just a little bit more. I went ahead and did some template designs and, shared a little bit about the deliverables in terms of choosing the color palette and typography and the logo and the graphic elements and all the things. But I'm just going to touch back over here on Canva. This is where I created everything. I created the logo on Canva. I chose the brand colors through Canva. And I'm going to show you some of the tools that you can use to help you in creating your brand identity. And even the fonts and everything, I got them in Canva. The photos, I'll just touch a bit more on the photos and imagery and even the brand voice, right? So the fundamental thing, like I said here earlier, was knowing who my target audience is. So this brand is Renee. Like I said, she's an infopreneur, and the persons who would come to Renee, sometimes they would lack the confidence in, in growing their own business, or they want someone who is engaging and is personable. And so these persons want to gain knowledge. They want someone who's engaging. And so everything that I created was reflective of that. Now, I went ahead and created the logo, very simple. And this is like a mark that says you should spark, you should shine, right? So it starts like it looks like a dot, but it also has a florid element to it, which means you're bold. With that dot, you should be bold, right? And in the comments, you can let me know if you're getting the same perception of it. But, creating your logo is just one aspect. Before I could create the logo, I had to think about my color palettes. And so I chose the colors of oranges and purples and a little slighter shade of orange and blue because, like I said, the brand is about being bold and stylish. And then I went on and chose blue because she's approachable. So it's not the baby soft blue, but a blue that is personable. No, you might be scratching it. I'm like, okay, Carrie, like, how do I choose the right tone? No, you have a tool on Canva, which is called, well, it's one of their tools. I'm going to just search it here, color palettes. And if you just do a quick search in Google, you'll find a color palette generator in Canva. Now, with this color palette generator, we all get inspiration, right? And if you are like saying, okay, I'm going to give you an example. If you're in the health industry and yeah, we use greens and we use those colors that create that emotion of growth and healing, but you want to choose the right shade of green and you're not sure, you can browse the Pinterest and all the sources that gives you the inspiration, and you can simply screenshot that photo or find that photo and upload it here, and it will generate the colors for you. I'm going to give you a quick example by just going to my own browser and uploading an image. Now, say I like the color from this logo and from this background here. Once I upload that image, the color palette generator instantly generates the colors because maybe I like the color. No, it might be a little bit off. And so what I can do, especially as it relates to the green, I could just remove the color that is here for with the background for the ice cream, so I could get more of the tone for the green. Or I could use a color picker. Let me just go into Canva and show you exactly what I mean. Let me create a new design in Canva. All right, hold on. I could do another thing. I could upload the image here, right? I'm going to give you an example using a design. All right, so I have my image here and I want this particular green. I am going to now go to color. I'm going to choose my color background for my palette on the toolbar. And you'll see a section here that says photo colors. And I can choose this color because when I choose the color, I also get the code for that color. So this is another way in which you can start gathering your photo or getting the color. And when I say building your brand identity and building your brand takes time, it takes time, especially as it relates to choosing the colors and choosing the right colors. Because once I start choosing the colors, I have to think about the primary colors and the secondary colors and which colors complement each other. So, right, like I said earlier, you can have an inspiration, you can upload it to the color palette generator to get more information or get more details on the colors. And Canva can help you to generate those colors, right? And from you see the photo colors here, it has already generated a pretty good, I would say, color palette. And you can just create like a new document in Canva and then you can just start putting everything together, right? So these are just some of the fundamentals or the fundamental parts of creating your brand identity in Canva. No, another thing to bear in mind as well is your fonts. No, this is a part I think sometimes persons really also miss the mark on as well, which is you just choose a font because it look good, right? You choose a font because, I don't know. Sometimes I really don't understand, the reasoning behind the color selection, not the color, but the font selection, the color selection too, because it's more about like vibes and what you feel look good or what you think looks good and not what your audience would resonate with. No, for this particular brand, I chose a font that was simpler but also had a stylish element. So I chose two fonts. I used Montserrat and I also used the Seasons. No, the Seasons is more for the title and something that would, stand out, but also still readable, right? And I also choose Montserrat, which is a very readable font because, like I said, the brand is about engaging persons and, sharing knowledge, which means anything you put out there should be readable, should be easy, digestible, right? And so I chose the fonts in that way. And even how I used the font for the designs was another big element as well. So these are just some fundamental things to bear in mind. And then I went ahead, I chose the font, the font for the title, the font for the subtitle, the heading, the subheading, and so on. And so I'm not using 3 to 4 fonts. I mean, I could add another font that could just complement and bring everything together nicely, but I'm choosing fonts that complement each other, right? And you can go into Canva. There's a resource that I'll link below where you can find and learn more about font pairing, because that's another thing. So it's not just a color palette, but also font pairing. And these are the things that come together in building your brand identity. No, we have another thing where we talk about brand voice, and that's just another element of creating your identity, of building your brand, not necessarily the identity itself, but more so the brand, which is brand voice. And you can find all these things in brand under brand kit in Canva. I'll link all the resources below so you can easily find them. And I will also make available to you a brand identity checklist and a template to help you get started with building your very own brand. And if you want to learn more about building your brand using Canva, you can check out my masterclass that is going to be touching on the fundamentals of branding, how to utilize Canva to build your brand, and how you can create your brand. Do it everything in Canva, right? So get the link, check out the link in the description, sign up for that class, and if you miss the live session, you can also catch the replay and you'll get that at a discounted rate. All right. All right. So this is just the identity, but I wanted to just show you some more things here, right? I touched on brand voice, and I'm not testing it out. I wanted you to see what the brand voice is, right? So the brand voice for this brand is friendly, knowledgeable, personable, with a fun tone that is helpful and encouraging. That's the brand voice. And then the photos here for this brand identity, I'm going to select it. And what I've done is to put together all the images for my brand, right? And I'm going to show you here, which is Renee. So all the visuals come together as well. So this is what I mean when I talk about bringing your visuals together for your brand identity. This is Renee. If you realize, every image here depicts like fun and bold and engaging and personable, right? So even the visuals, the images that you'll use for your brand comes into play with your brand identity. And you could also upload your graphics here, but I am going to go to a folder to show you exactly what all the designs look like for my Renee brand. No, I have all my designs that I created for the Renee brand, right? And like I said earlier, she is an infopreneur, which means she shares her knowledge through coaching and speaking. And all the designs that I made for her depict her brand. So let's look at them briefly. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this is the brand font. These are the colors, and even how you use them in a design is very important, right? So I went in and I chose all the colors, the layout, which makes it engaging. I added other elements that would depict fun and some amount of vibrance and boldness. So it's not overwhelming, right? Because our audience knows, well, listen, Renee is this fun type, Renee is engaging, Renee is bold, Renee is stylish. So all these fonts, all these colors come together nicely for her, right? So these are just some of the designs. Then I'm gonna go back here, and I also designed like a media kit, right? And this is how the colors come together as well. If you want access to these templates, you can check out the link in my description for more. So there, I have walked you through how you can create your very own brand identity in Canva. I've shared with you some fundamentals. I've given you the guide. And if you want to learn more about creating your very own brand in Canva for your business, you can check out the link in my description to see a playlist for this series, which is Brand Your Business Using Canva. And I also have a masterclass that is teaching you how